This hobby is all about nostalgia, and from growing up in the 90s and 2000s, I don't really have much left from my collection. I actually thought my entire collection was gone until I found this in an old toolbox. I'm not sure how this survived being in the toolbox for so long, but this cartridge here is over 20 years old. If you don't know how these old cartridges work, there is a little tiny battery on the motherboard that holds the save for you. I don't know if this works at all, but I thought today we could take a look at this and to see what we could do with it. I'm pretty excited to see that something survived from my childhood gaming collection, and this is the only thing that I have left. Generally, when I was upgrading to the new generation, I would sell most of the old stuff. I actually have a way to play this now, and luckily, thanks to my analog pocket, I can test this out and see if it works. I'm still working on my review of this, but I'm going to hopefully have it up soon. With the holiday seasons though, it might be a little delayed. I am really loving this console so far though, just as a spoiler, but I do want to try this out and see if this works. Let's pop this into the analog pocket and see what happens. I think this is pretty cool how the analog pocket can play physical cartridges like this. Oh, we got it in there okay. Let's turn it on and see if it works. Let's play the cartridge. And it does recognize that this cartridge is an active game, so that's good. That means that it can actually read the cartridge. And the game starts up right away. It does seem like my save is actually there as well. Apparently I had a giant rock monster called Bob. Obviously I had a very good sense of imagination growing up. I gotta say though, seeing this game playing again though is absolutely incredible. The analog pocket also has some really cool screen modes. I do really like this standard analog Game Boy Advance mode though, because the colors look really nice, but the LCD grid looks pretty cool too. Regardless, it's good to see this save working. That means the battery is still working and that save is still intact. So we do need to shut this off because I do want to do something else with this. Let's power down the analog pocket. Now that the pocket's powered off, we can remove that cartridge. So I've had this cartridge for a good while, over 20 years, and it's got lots of memories on it. If that battery dies, everything that I have on here is lost. This game is also more nostalgic to me in a couple different ways because this is the first video game that I got from a friend. I reached out to a company to see if they could help me save this cartridge, and they were happy to send over their product for me to check out. This is the Gameboy Operator by a company called Epilogue. If you don't know, this allows us to back up the cartridge saves so we can use them on any other device. This means that I could use them on an emulation-based device like the Odin 2. I could also load them on my computer or just back them up in general, so I have them in case I want to swap the battery out on this down the road. This currently works with Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, and Game Boy Advance games. So I'm covered there. Today I thought we could take a quick look at this to show you how to back up your old cartridges. If you got some cartridges that you want to back up, or you're like me and you've got one or two left that you just want to get that save off of to move over to some modern hardware, let me show you how to do that. Special thanks to Epilogue for sending this over so we can take a closer look at this to see how this works. This entire hobby has been around preserving memories in my opinion, and I think it's really cool that we can back up physical saves on these cartridges. Back in the early 2000s, I never thought that I would see a day when I could pull the saves off of these and put them onto any other device that I own. So let's take a closer look at this and see what it's all about. If you're interested in this, I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check it out. This retails for $50 US, which in all actuality is a pretty good deal. Let's open this up and take a closer look. Right on the box, we have the cover here. If we flip it over, there's nothing else that we can see. This was shipped over from the US, and I didn't see any import fees coming into Canada. On the side, it tells us this is compatible with Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. And we can run this on Windows 10, Mac OS, or Linux. We have a little instruction manual. We have some very simple instructions, so we have to download the software from their website, plug it into the computer, then insert the cartridge, then the software should automatically detect it. It also has a 1-year warranty, which is really good to see. These guys have been really active at replying to my emails, and I can't recommend this company enough so far. I've had a really good experience with them. Underneath that, we have a USB cable. This is USB-A to USB-C. And then we have the Gameboy Operator itself. This is just a very small, simple device. The bottom has a very nice rubber grip to it, so it doesn't slide around on your desk. There's nothing on the back, but it is a very transparent, glossy plastic, so it is going to attract a lot of fingerprints. I really like this transparent plastic on here too. It's very reminiscent of the early 2000s. And I'm a sucker for transparent handhelds. As you've seen with the FPGA Game Boy, I love transparent plastics, and I think they did a really cool job on the design of this. Small enough to fit in a bag while maintaining a pretty decent affordable price at $50 US. On the top, we have the cartridge slot, and on the front we don't really have anything either. We do have that Type-C USB port on here as well, and that's all there is to it. It actually feels a lot heavier than I thought it would be. I'm going to plug this into my computer next so we can see how to use this. Once it's plugged in, you're going to notice a light on the top. Now all we have to do is install the software here, so go ahead and click Install Playback in the top right corner. Then go ahead and download for Windows. Just once that's downloaded, go ahead and run that installer. The nice thing about this is it also allows us to play our cartridges directly on Windows. And it can also detect fake cartridges. Once we start that up, we can see that there is an update available, so let's go ahead and update that. Now that we've updated it, let's take a closer look at the settings menu. In the settings menu here, we can see all the stuff that we have enabled. If you have a good computer, you can go ahead and enable the high fidelity mode. The rest of these though, I'm just going to leave as automatic. We have some controller options here, and some performance options, as well as a few system options, and some video options as well. We can shut that LED off if we don't want it on, and we can configure our controller if we want to play on the computer, or we can configure the keyboard. Now that we've got everything configured, let's go ahead and insert that cartridge. As soon as I stuck it in, it immediately recognized it. I didn't have to refresh or anything. It tells us this is an official cartridge, and it's read-only. We have an option here to check the settings for that, or we can hit start. This is to play the game, but if we go to the data cartridge here, we can do a couple different things with it. We can back up the game itself, which is something that I definitely want to do, as this allows us to play it on any other hardware. First thing I'm going to do is to back up the game. So I'm going to hit backup game, and I'm going to hit start. I'm going to put it in a folder in my downloads, just called new folder for now, but you can move these over to your ROM directory once you're done saving it. This is going to save the file as a .gba, which is what we want, and it automatically put the region in, which is really good. So let's go ahead and click save, and this is going to read the cartridge. So far, since everything is showing up green, you know it's going well. This may take a little while, but for the most part, it's actually going pretty quick, and this is a lot faster than I thought it would go. Now in that folder, you can see that the Game Boy game is backed up, and we can load this onto another device later to check it out. We also have a backup save button, which is something that I very much want to do. This is the whole reason that I wanted to get this. So let's go ahead and back up that save now. And I'm going to start the backup process. This is going to save it as a SAV file, but you can also save it as an SRM file. I'm just going to use the .save file. I'm going to go ahead and save that. That's a lot smaller, so that was instantly transferred over. We have the Game Boy game, and we have the save file. I can't believe how easy that was to do. This is aimed at being one of the easiest ways to back up your game files and your saves themselves. If we go back to the play tab and hit play, it will start the game. So that's pretty cool. Let's exit that. If we've been playing on a ROM file and we want to upload that save to an official cartridge as well, we can do that. So if you're using the same region, so if you were playing Monster Rancher Advance 2, and you were playing that on like your Odin, you can upload that save file and put it onto the official cartridge. All you have to do is just make sure that that region matches and just make sure it's obviously the same game. But that was a very easy process. Let's try a couple other different cartridges. Let's try this copy of Pokemon Yellow. This is a fake version of Pokemon Yellow, and it's extremely cheap. The PCB for this is only about this tall, and so most of this is plastic. Let's see what the Game Boy Operator detects with this. Let's go ahead and insert that into the Gameboy Operator. This tells us that this is an unknown title from an unknown developer. This is also a rewritable cartridge. So if I wanted to, I could actually upload a homebrew game to this. But I can do the same thing. I can back up the game, I can back up the save, or I can upload a different save to it. I kind of find this funny that this is a rewritable cartridge, so I could just put whatever I want on here. This cartridge does not have a save battery though, so it's kind of useless as is. I've already tried saving on here and the save file has already been corrupted. Let's try a couple different other cartridges. I managed to grab this copy of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX from a coworker for $7.50 Canadian. The label's in a little rough shape, but I've opened this up and I've cleaned the contact terminals and they seem to be pretty clean now. The plastic's not in bad shape, but that label is not ideal. However, it's just the game that we're looking for, and I only paid $7 for this, so I figured that was a pretty good deal. Let's try this one out and see how this goes. So once I inserted that, it popped up right away. This is showing it as an official cartridge and it's a read-only cartridge. So let's go to that data thing and back up the game. I think it's nice how it automatically detects the region, the revisions, and everything else. So let's go ahead and save that. This only takes a couple seconds and it's already backed up. I don't have any saves on here that I want as this was not my cartridge. This is a pretty small game at only 1 megabyte. This is the Japanese copy of Pokemon Red. I bought this on eBay for about $10. This is in good shape, but it does have a problem with the cartridge itself. This does not work for some reason in my analog pocket, but it seems to work really well in my FPGA Game Boy. For some reason, the saves on this are not working as well, so this is definitely a problematic cartridge. I want to see if I can get the ROM off this cartridge itself so I have some way to use this on other devices. Let's pop this into the Gameboy Operator and see what we can do with it. I'm curious to see if this will read, but I did clean this off really good. No, it showed up okay. So this is actually reading fine. This is showing up as an official cartridge and read only, so that's good. Let's go to the data and let's try to back up the game for it. And the backup seemed to go good. We have the file here and it's 512 kilobytes. So that did seem to work out well. It also gives us a checksum here, which we could use to check out the cartridge to make sure it ripped correctly. But the data grid did seem to stay full green, so I think we're okay there. I've got my micro SD card from my Retroid Pocket 3 Plus open, and I'm going to paste the save file and my ROM file for Monster Rancher Advance 2. I'm going to go ahead and cut the game. I'm going to go to my ROM folder, and I've gone ahead and pasted that in. I do need to keep this in the downloads folder just for the time being until I get onto my device, because the save files are located on the device itself. So I've started up my Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. Let's go to the Game Boy Advance folder. So this is the old Monster Rancher Advance ROM that I had, so I need to go ahead to the paths and let's sync that again. Now that we've synced it, let's check out the library. You can go down to the edit item page here just to make sure that this is in fact the same game. If we look closely at the URL for the game file, you can see that this is the USA ROM that we've dumped. So this is in fact the same one that we put on there. Because I already have this scraped and everything, let's go ahead and try starting it up. And the ROM seems to work out perfectly. We don't have the save yet, so let's move that over next. I'm going to use CX File Explorer for this. I put the save file underneath the micro SD card, under the downloads folder, and there's the save file. Let's go ahead and move that save file. We have to go back to our main storage, so click the home button here, then scroll down until you see RetroArch. Then we're looking for the saves directory, and this is where all the saves are. So we can just go ahead and paste this in. Now once we load that up, that should work out perfectly. Let's go back to the game and check it out. So that didn't work, and I think I know why. And this would be why. Because there is a save file. This is the one that we moved over. This is an SRM file. I'm going to go ahead and delete the old SRM file, and we're going to see if that works with the save file. If that's not working, I think I know the reason why. I believe the MGBA uses SRM extensions, So we can delete this old SRM extension here. Then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to rename this save file to SRM. We can actually save that save file as an SRM file directly from the Game Boy Operator, but I just saved it as a .sav file. This is going to largely depend on what emulator you're using, but SAV is more universally compatible. This should work because I did the same thing on my Analog Pocket. And there we go. So the save file has been moved over. I think it's pretty cool to move over your official cartridges and your official save files. Or you could do vice versa. You could save on this and you could upload it to an official cartridge, which is pretty cool. It also feels kind of cool playing from an official cartridge on emulation devices like this. And I think that's pretty neat. I have to say this has also kind of got me interested in buying official cartridges more. eBay is a really good spot to find more cartridges, and you can expand your collection this way as well. What do you guys think of the Game Boy Operator? I think this is a really cool way to back up your official cartridges. Special thanks to Epilogue again for sending this over. Saving my last physical cartridge means a lot to me. This is definitely worth $50 US if you're looking to back up your official cartridges. The process is super easy and it doesn't take very long to set it up either, as you saw. If you have any questions about the Game Boy Operator, make sure to let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to make sure to respond to those as soon as possible. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and as always, thanks for watching.